of the fans are a bit greater, especially in the Scottish League. If you're not playing with two strikers, as Celtic at your home ground against weak opposition, there's something not quite right with that for me. So yeah, trying to play Stokes as anything other than a striker isn't going to work. Obviously, we had been out last night. We were limited in our options, but it shows you how much Skepovic is out of favour as well. When you've got Lee Griffiths getting a bit of a nod ahead of him as well, and Stokes. He's well out the reckoning, I think, Skepovic just now, which is unfortunate. But not that he's set the header on fire greatly since he's and the chances he's had with us, but I'd have maybe taken a punt on him last night, especially if you're playing that one up front thing.
I think Griffiths done really well, personally. I mean, I think looking at if you look back at the highlights, I reckon by the 60th minute he was completely stuffed. I'm surprised he didn't get taken off. He just looked absolutely spent, and I think he actually done all right for himself. But I'd have him ahead of Stokes up there at the moment. Cause I think at least he's a bit nippy. He certainly, if they want the high pressing game, he can do it far better than what Stokes can do it. So yeah, I mean, if Guidetti's not there, I'd be more inclined to have Griffiths in there. But Napoleon_Celtic on Twitter, and this is, I actually 100% agree with this, and it was my thoughts as well watching the game when the night was. It's as if Celtic are trying to turn Stokes into the new Samaras. It's not going to work, and I tend to agree with that. I reckon I reckon we could do worse than actually having a genuine left midfielder in there. You know, an actual player that plays left midfield, not someone who is, we're just trying to find a space for on the team. And it's I know people have mentioned in the past, and I'm sort of a big fan, but Gary McKay-Stevens, someone like that, who's actually a genuine left-sided midfielder, and will go at players. Stokes got a bit of space last night at one stage, and he didn't quite hit the touchline, but he's swinging it. It's basically just swinging with his left foot to put it across the goal, and then he's complaining at the player because it didn't move in. But it was nothing near the player. I don't know if you recall. It was.
I do know. I remember exactly the move you're talking about, because he put it into wee Griffiths.
But it was nothing near him. You know what I mean? It was just
Griffiths had kind of checked his run a little bit.
But as I said, there was nothing. Griffiths was nowhere near it. But Stokes is still having a go. But if you've got a guy who's a genuine left midfielder, someone who's even left-sided, I mean, is going to get a better chance of putting a cross over there, a half decent cross, than somebody who's naturally right-footed and he's just really swinging at it. So
we'll see. To be honest, I would, for that instance you're talking about, Pat, my take on that was Stokes did the right thing, because what Griffiths did, he was holding himself back, even although he was onside anyway, because he was behind the ball. Now, for some reason, unbeknown to me, but beknown to Lee Griffiths, he did actually kind of stop, even although he was still onside. He kind of checked his run even further and kind of pulled back a little bit. Whereas I think the ball, if he'd have just carried that run or stayed in line with the ball or slightly behind it, he could have been getting onto that cross from Stokes, because it certainly took the goalkeeper out, and it was behind the last defender. So I'll defend Stokes, what he did with that particular instance you're talking about. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what Napoleon's saying on there as well. It's not going to work, Stokes playing that position for me. And again, let's not beat about the bush here. Stokes has done relatively well for Celtic, and I have got a bit of a soft spot for the guy. And he's obviously a Celtic fan and all the rest of it, but he's never going to be one of those heroic Celtic players, or we're never going to hugely miss him when he leaves Celtic and we bring in a new striker to replace him. But while we've got Stokes there, and while we're kind of weak in the forward position, I think Stokes' best position would be either at the top of a kind of midfield diamond, or as if you're playing three up front, and that slightly behind the striker's role. Because one thing about Tony Stokes is he has got good vision. He can pick a pass, and he can make those little cute flicks and things like that, linking up with other strikers. So I would like to see him, if we need to use him, I'd like to see him in that kind of role. where I think he'd be a lot more effective than as you're saying out on the left hand side.
I think you're right. I reckon he's good as a second forward, not as the main sort of goal threat, but he's good as a second forward. He creates chances and he can take his own chances when they're sort of presented to him. So, but yeah, left midfield, I'm not totally sold on it. So
no, definitely not.
But I mean, the bottom line is, like, you get. I mean, depends who they're looking at for the next sort of transfer window as well. But the other one we're missing is Wikaso. I don't know what happened to him sort of last night, whether it's still an injury, but
out of favour.
Well, is he out of favour? Wasn't he on the bench though? Fairly certain he wasn't. I'll double check that, but I don't think he was on the bench. So, which means he's either injured or he just wasn't selected. Full stop. So, I'm interested to see what if he's out of favour, then fair enough. If he's injured, then all right. We've got him on loan till I'm guessing to the end of the year, and then see how it goes from there. But like he probably wouldn't have been a bad option. At least he's busy, you know what I mean? At least he's left-sided. He's he's direct and all that sort of stuff. But like, the simple fact is, I mean, it could all change, in terms of the way we play in Europe when we get to the last set of two. Guidetti's going to be back, and that assuming you get somebody like Lustig back as well. Denier, but as Liam said, is that you get all those players back, will give teams a problem. Whether we can get to the next stage probably depends on who we get. But when you've got guys like sort of Tony and that coming in, like he did kind of all right last.
He did okay, I think, when he came on. Yeah, he did okay. He made a contribution anyway. Put it that way.
Made a contribution. It's the most I think I've seen him make in any of the games I've watched. I think he's been a huge fan of his, but he came on, done alright. I think Mulgrew went off. Did he go off injured? I think it was.
He did. He took a bit of a knock to the ribs. Yeah.
So he did. That's right. You're right. So maybe that gives him a chance against Hearts as well. Depends how Mulgrew is. So I'm not sure I'll be starting Tony in any way, shape or form. But because obviously we'll talk about later about the Hearts game coming up. That's going to be a fairly massive game for us as well. But I still think we missed Lustig as well. Matthews was alright, but there's just something about Lustig, that composure, that experience, and and cross getting the balls into the box and stuff like that. So we had it in droves last night with Izagiri. He played, I thought, pretty well. But there was not really. I don't think there was as much coming from the right that I can remember. But I could well be missing something. But I think it was McGregor just wasn't making a contribution. So.
There's a couple of their players that I wouldn't mind in our team. That Campbell guy, he looks quite a tasty player actually, but I'm sure he's on plenty of clubs' radars anyway, if somebody hasn't already stepped in to sign him.
There was no, wait a minute, it was on, this is on BT Sport, I think it was at Southampton. I think they were talking I don't know if I was right, but I heard the term, the number €10 million. Mentioned right. There's some other guy going to a team in Germany, so it might have been talking about him. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it was teams in England apparently are interested in him. But even that guy Soriano, he was.
Yeah, no, he can't argue with his. In fact, he's got a phenomenal scoring record for them just now. I think we dealt with him quite well last night.
We did. I mean,
that's another thing. I have to mention this because the clown on the commentator on the beIN Sports channel, when they got that free kick, and the one that it should never really have been a free kick, he gave it for the high feet or something like that. So of course it's an indirect free kick, and the referee's clearly holding his arm up. But anyway, on this beIN Sports, I don't know who the commentator was, an English fella though. But so of course Soriano steps up, smacks a free kick in, but Gordon did leave it. He noticed it straight away that it was indirect, so he just left it and let it go in. Now, I'm sure it caused a bit of stress in the stands at Celtic Park as well, right enough, but as soon as it went in, the referee quite rightly blows for it. And he holds his arm aloft and he's kind of tapping his arm. But this clown on the commentary says, "Oh, don't know what that's for. It must have been a handball as the ball went through or something." And you're thinking, what? Do you not know the rules of this game, son? But that was a bit farcical. He was a bit puzzled by that, but obviously the producer came on or somebody in his ear and told him that's what he'd given the goal kick for after that.
Told him the rules of association football. You mean?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
By the way, if it's an indirect free kick and you kick the ball in the net, it doesn't count. So yes,
I'm sure there was a few at the ground last night shat themselves though at that as well.
I was one of them. I didn't. Again, it's one of those things. Thank God that Craig Gordon's, switched on enough that he knows it's a indirect free kick, because when it went in, I went, oh.
He'd have taken a power. Imagine getting that one wrong. Bloody hell.
Yes, but yeah, that was a kind of heart missed a beat of that one. Going, oh no, that's when the thought of that 5-0 spanking just comes into your head. So
I know,
but never mind. We go.
I suppose on a positive note, though, Liam, we are, as Pat said earlier, we're through to the last 32 of Europe, which is still a decent achievement. From that, okay, we didn't know too much about the likes of Astra going into that, but I must admit, I thought it was going to be very tight for us to get out of that group, because I know we've played Dinamo Zagreb in the past, and they're a decent team. They're certainly not a bad team, and I thought it was going to be tight to see who would qualify. I did fancy Red Bull to go through as the winners, but I thought it was going to be tight between ourselves and Dinamo. But so we've got to be happy that we're through at the last 32. But I mean, how far do you honestly think we can go, Liam? And would you like to see us getting a big team just for the glamour factor in the next round, or would you be happier to see us get somebody that we might be able to progress against?
I think if we get the right draw, we could go to the last 16.
Mm-hmm.
I don't honestly see us getting beyond that.
Yeah.
But I actually think, see if we got what you would call a glamour tie, I reckon we'd have a better chance of going through.
Because we're underdogs.
Aye, we always have this tendency to play up against teams that we're expected to lose to, and then we capitulate to teams we're expected to beat,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, look at the qualifying, right? We get absolutely horsed by Legia Warsaw,
mm-hmm.
and then we go and beat Dinamo Zagreb, who I think are probably a better team.
Mm-hmm.
But we were expected to beat Legia Warsaw. We were not really expected to beat Zagreb, and we did. I just think it's a bizarre logic, but with Celtic, that's just how it seems to work.
Yeah.
So I say give us one of the bigger teams, and I think we could maybe beat them and get through one more round.
Mm. And in a sense, I suppose, if we do get one of the bigger teams where we are underdogs, there's not that huge expectation as well. So, we could punch up, as we've proven in the past before in the Champions League, we can punch above our weight when it comes to it. And I know it's a new management team and there's some new players there as well, but I agree with you, Liam. I think we've still got that something about us that because we're favourites in so many of the games that we play, certainly domestically, that I think the players and the team enjoys sometimes having that tag of underdog, because we don't experience it that often.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it'll be interesting to see who we do get once the draw's made for this round of 32. And I'm not too sure, to be honest just now. I would honestly like to see us bringing in a few more signings in January, and I do think we will do some business in January. The quality I'm not so sure about, because again, as you said before, Liam, the biscuit tin mentality is there. There'll be some wheeling and dealing, but I do think we will bring somebody in. I hope one of those people is like John Guidetti. We get him on a permanent deal or a longer term deal. I'd certainly like to see him hanging around, though, certainly for the latter stages. He's mentioned it himself that he would like a go at it. And again, just to finish off on the whole Guidetti thing as well, it was interesting. A couple of high profile players that you'd like to think, I hope Mr. Guidetti's looking at this, but there was the article that came up again with Xavi, of course, getting interviewed earlier in the week. And I don't know the context of it or why he was being asked this as well, but he of course mentioned Celtic and Celtic Park as a venue for playing football in, and that it was second to none, and the fans there are incredible, and who wouldn't want to play in front of those fans. And just part of me thinks I hope John Guidetti's kind of reading that, because he's still a young guy. there's no reason why he couldn't play a few years or